All right, in this video, I'm going to cover a couple of different things regarding DNS and building a trust relationship between two domains. So a couple items that we need to make sure that we have installed and ready to go prior to what I'm going to actually show you. You need to make sure that you have Active Directory domain services installed on servers, as well as promoted to domain controllers. And you'll also have to have DNS set up on those servers as well. So you can see that we've got Active Directory already set up. They've been promoted on this. We've got DNS installed. Likewise, over here on this server, we have two separate servers. Both roles are installed. And if we pull up Active Directory on both of these, you can see that this domain here is called test.test, and this one's called test2.test. It is important that you name these different when you're running them locally like this, because you can't have two domains or two domain controllers with the same naming convention. All right, so now that we have both of those already installed, we'll go ahead and take a look at enabling a zone transfer on the servers. We're going to open up DNS and expand forward lookup zones. And you can see that we've got test.test here. Right click on properties and zone transfers, allow zone transfers. So you've got a couple different options here. In a production environment, you probably wouldn't want to do to any server. If you're just testing this in a lab environment, that should be perfectly fine. And then you can limit it to servers listed on the name servers tab, or only specific servers. So for the purposes of this video, either or any of these are fine if you want to play around with them. I'm going to go ahead and actually only allow for the following server on this one. And I'm going to go over here and pull up the IPfig, and you can see the IP address of this server. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in here. And save that. And hopefully all of that works out well. And then on this server, I'm going to open up DNS as well and do the same thing. You can see that it's test2. I'm going to go ahead and just set enable to any server on this one. Like I said, this is just a test environment, so that really doesn't matter either way for what I'm showing in this video. And for the next step, I'm gonna actually Microsoft's documentation on adding a DNS server or a secondary zone. So if we go look at the add secondary DNS server zone, you can see that they have a PowerShell script here using the add DNS server secondary zone. And then you're going to use the name flag and enter in the name of the domain that you're adding. So in this scenario, if I'm over here on test, I'm going to be adding test.2.test. The zone file, you can name it something similar to your domain.dns. That's the DNS file that gets saved. And master server, again, would be in this scenario, if I'm over here on test.test, you're going to want to use test.2. So I'm going to. All right, so I went ahead and entered that in on test.test. Let's do a refresh here and see if we get anything. All right, so it may take couple minutes and you may have to close it, but I do have test2.test now as a lookup zone here. And I went ahead and paused it for a second and ran the command over on server, basically pointing to this domain and its IP address. I'm going to go ahead and close DNS, reopen it, open it. And you can see now that I have test.test and test.to on both of these. All right, so now that we've got the setup, we need to go ahead and create the domain trust between these two domains. And the way that we need to do that is through Active Directory domains and trust. And we can select our domain, right click and hit properties. Gives you some general information here. On the trusts tab, you can see that there are currently no trusts between this domain. We want to create a new trust, go through, and this is where you're going to type in the DNS name for the domain that you want to trust between. So trust.to in this example. Click next. You can do things between how you want to allow the trust. So an external trust, if you want to limit that trust, or forest trust if you want to trust between two forests. For this example, I'm going to give full trust forest wide. I only have a single domain in each. So depending on the scenario, you may want to limit. And the next option, you have a option to select two-way trust, meaning that you can trust this domain to this domain and vice versa. Or you can select one-way incoming trust or outgoing one-way trust. For this example, I'm going to trust both ways between the two domains. And this is another limiting factor of this domain only. If you want to allow that, or if you want to do both this domain and the specified domain. Again, I'm going to do everything full access between the two. Now I need to enter in username and password that has admin credentials for the test.to.test site. This is, in my example, I use the same password and administrative account when I'm setting up and doing these labs. So it's fairly simple, but just remember that this password and admin account is for this domain over here. So we'll hit next. And then you have the option for forest-wide authentication or selective authentication. So if you want to limit the ability for authentication, or if you want to do it forest-wide. Again, I'm going to do kind of a all-in for this exam. So forest-wide is what I'm going to select on this. Same for the local server, and gives you a summary. Hit next, and next again. This is basically the option for confirming the outbound connection or outbound trust. I do want to confirm it. Hit next. And then I also want to confirm the inbound trust. So hit next, hit finish. And we should now have that trust showing up. So we've got test.to.test showing in our trust here. And if everything worked properly, it should also automatically add trust over here because we did that two-way trust. If we didn't do a two-way trust, then you would have to go in, new trust, and do those steps to do a trust in the opposite direction back to test.test. However, that did work both directions. So next we can go ahead and verify that we can see both domains. All right, I did pause the video briefly so I could create a couple user accounts to basically verify that this is working between domains. So on my test.test domain, I have test user server 1. And on my test2.test domain, I have test user server 2. And you can see that I do not have the test user server 1 over here on this domain. Likewise, I don't have the test user server 2. So the way that I can test this is there's a couple different ways. If you had a computer that's joined to, say, test2.test domain, you should be able to use a user on either domain to log in. But the quick and easy way, so you don't have multiple VM addition to this running, is to just right click and do find. And by default, it's going to search whatever searched last or your local domain. So you can actually select which domain you want when you have multiple domains. So I'm going to go switch over to domain 2. And actually, I'm going to switch back to 1 real quick just to make sure that we don't have any user that matches that user account. So you can see in test.test, we do not have this user that's over here. If I switch to test2.test and do a find again, you can see that it does find that user account. And I can actually pull it up on view properties and so on. If I keep it on test.2 and search for the 1 account, you can see that it's not finding it over here in this domain. But if I switch back to test.1, it does find it. And if I were to limit that search, so this search here should find anything as far as a user, contact, or group that is named test_user_SVR. So in theory, if it could search both domains, it would find both accounts. However, I am limiting to just this domain. So we can see that I'm just getting back 1. If I switch, I should get 2, and I do. If I switch to the entire directory, which should search for both domains, apparently it's not, but that should pull both of those. But that gives you an understanding of how to set up the requirements to do a domain trust and work in multiple domains from multiple locations. Thank you for watching.